Okay, this is Trent Lewis here with Fred Woolley, and we're looking at this videotape. Tell me about this, Fred.
Well, this was actually 16 millimeter movies, Trent, that were taken back in the late 1930s, actually mid 1930s, through the late 1940s. And it's of the Pohaton Inn, and it was taken by the innkeepers at the time, and they were Helen and Ben Swenson. And as we'll see here, a lot of the same activities that took place back at that time are still enjoyed here at the Pohaton Inn in Pokagon today. They had two big St. Bernard dogs. One was Pokey and the other was Sandy. And I guess they were real hits here at the Pohaton Inn, and even featured on some of the early postcards too, which is kind of interesting. Wow. You can see the landscape is pretty much the same. Some of the trees are gone that were in front of the inn. Used to be a couple big trees right there at the beach. Quite a long pier that went out.
Wow, it's not that long anymore, is it?
No. Now we have two piers that come out. Not a real long one. That's the what's called the bathhouse right there. That was built back during the Civilian Conservation Corps time, and we use that now as our boat rental area.
Now, could they rent sailboats then?
I don't know if they had sailboat rental. I don't see that in any of the literature. I think some people would have their own sailboats and bring their own rowboats and so forth. The inn did have some boats, though, that they would canoe. They would canoe over towards Lake Jefferson, and they have picnic lunches over there by Bledsoe's Beach. What's interesting, Trent, too, you can see the lack of homes along the lakeshore. Of course, there are homes there. There are cottages and things, but back in the 30s and 40s, they're real small weekend-type cottages. You can see how open it is across the lake at that point. Well, of course, now today, a lot of them are year-round homes, and they're quite a bit larger and a little bit more elaborate. And I suspect that's the land just directly to the west of the Pohaton Inn right there. There are no homes or anything. It's all park property.
Looks like there wasn't a lot of motorboat activity on that day, or maybe it's early morning.
You're right. Not nearly anything like we have today with the big pontoons and the jet skis and the bass boats and so forth. And I suspect a lot of the lakes in Steuben County were much back in the 30s and 40s.
Well, there's a motorboat.
Yeah,
no, it isn't.
It's just a good windy day, I think. I did see in one of the previous shots, though, it looked like there was a motor on the back of a boat. And what you'll see when you go to the Pohaton Inn today, Trent, as we try to capture some of that history, you'll see, okay, right here, that's one of these tour boats. And they did have a service where a gentleman would lead tours and drive people around the lake. And we're kind of duplicating that today with our electric launch. And the electric launch, which was originally on our lakes back at the early 1900s, the Pohaton Inn again has one today. But this was they had a captain of the boat, and he would pick people up there at the end of the pier and take them on tours around the lake. So he's got his
hat, captain's hat.
Yeah, the captain's hat there. Okay, this is the electric launch right here, and it's fascinating, and it's I think it seats about 20 people or so, and we have a similar one today up at the Pohaton Inn, trying to recapture some of that history.
They really didn't have a kind of swim area kind of branched off like they do now.
I don't think from the clips that we have here that they had it roped off. I think people just swam out at whatever distance they felt comfortable. Great hats on these folks, aren't they? Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's early skiing going on.
Yeah, looks like early wakeboarding there.
Wow, that's a big board. Yeah,
who said that was just an activity of the 2000s, eh? We were doing it in the 1930s.
Not going particularly fast, but...
And of course, you didn't have to watch for all the other boat traffic and so forth. Now there's a lot more things you have to watch for when you're out on the lakes. Hard to say earlier, the inn capturing some of this history. When you're up there now, in the present day time, they have some old boats and some of the motors and some of the things that you would have seen if you were here back in the 30s and 40s, as well as some real earlier crafts too, some canoes and some more primitive.
She fell.
Yeah, back to the boathouse there, you can see there was when you're there now, you can see there are two doors in front, one for men, one for women, so they'd change on their respective sides. But now we use it to rent our paddle boats and our pontoons and our rowboats.
No, she's doing pretty well, I think.
Yeah, there we
That
go.
was a paddle boat.
Yeah, yeah, looks like, oh, canoe there. Looks like they're canoeing out. Get a good shot of our undeveloped shoreline there. And that's what's so special about Pokagon. We've been able to maintain that undeveloped shore. You can see the original inn here now, Trent. That was built 1927. And of course, you can see it all in one image now if the camera is on. In daytimes, you can't see all of the inn.
This is great stuff. I mean, she's got a real eye for photography.
Helen Swenson had a wonderful eye for not only photography, but just art in general. She was an artist. She was a watercolor painter, and some of her works are still around Northeast Indiana today. And we have these two posters here at the Nature Center and also at the Pohaton Inn that are available. And she did those posters.
No, grilling out.
Yeah, it looks like a shoreline lunch here.
That looks good.
Yeah, she did a certain amount of this with the guest. Now, I don't know this particular clip here, if it was just her and her husband or a couple of inn guests. But boy, that's reminiscent of a northern Minnesota or Canada or northern Michigan there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trailside lunch and very few homes or boats on the... Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where that was. It looks like they went some distance from the park.
Well, this doesn't change much. Beach, and
No.
kids, and sand.
Nope, that's what's special about our natural areas and our parks and reservoirs. They have a time-honored tradition of bringing families here. And of course, with our natural glacial lakes, they're very shallow. You can go quite some distance and not have any serious drop-offs.
Is that a horse trail, or is it?
Horse trails, this is interesting because we still have a saddle barn operation today, but back in the 1930s and 40s, most of the park had saddle trails through them. And, you know, we have one set trail now, but used to be able to go along Trail 1 and all the way up to Snow Lake, all the way up to Hell's Point. Is today. Actually, this particular site here is now where the conference center is.
Oh, okay.
We've since added on to the inn.
So that would have been, what, behind the inn a
Yeah,
bit?
this is just to the north of the Pohaton Inn, right about where the parking lot is. And looking off, you see woods in the distance, and I don't know if it shows it on this clip, but there are some little fish ponds down there that were built by the Civilian Conservation Corps in the 1930s. And when I got here in 1980, they had paved concrete between these two shuffleboard courts and made a basketball court out of it.
Hmm.
So this is a nice
what do we
little...
got here? Oh, looks like archery.
Yeah, archery. They used to have archery competition here at the Pokagon State Park. They'd have these big tournaments, not only here at Pokagon, but at Brown County State Park and at some others. There you can see that's their park office in the distance there. And the office... Okay, that was Helen Swenson there, just moved through the screen.
Was she the younger lady, or?
I think in her 30s at that point. Math to figure that out again, but they were here in the 30s. Wow, great footage here. This is the door into the Lano Del Lounge now, and that was originally the main lobby for the Pohaton Inn. And the big St. Bernards. You know, back then we only had about 30 rooms at the Pohaton Inn, so it wasn't that large, and all the guests got to know each other each year. So it was a much more of a family, well, it still is a family atmosphere, but you really got to know the people quite well. That was Helen Swenson there.
Okay. Oh. It's Halloween time now?
Yes, Halloween was huge at the Pohaton Inn, and still is today, but back then they'd have huge parties, and all the housekeepers, people, all the waiters, waitresses, they'd really get into it.
It's interesting that they pretty much dress up in normal attire back then and then go for a bike ride.
Yes, that's the style of the day with the hats and suits, ties. You know, it was a big event to come here. Wow, mink coat, very nice. Great footage here. Looks like a mink stole there. I don't know if the inn had bicycles for rent or if they just had them for use. I haven't come across that in the literature, but you can see it was quite popular then. This is the front of the inn now facing the lake. Some of those big
Okay.
cedar trees are still there. You can see the brick pavement there, the brick.
So autumn at Pokagon.
Now, this is a surrounding countryside, and that may have been over about a mile from the park. But you can see how open Steuben County was at that time. Oh, you saw the small spruce trees there and the
Yeah.
pine trees? Those were all planted here in the 1920s, shortly after the park became a park. Sunday morning breakfast programs. They'd either do them at the inn, or this one here is over at the CCC shelter. And check out how small some of those spruce trees are out there in the front lawn.
Wow.
They're just huge now in the 2000s. Look how open it is there. Very few trees.
Where about is this again?
Over at the, it was called the Combination Shelter at that time, but we call it the CCC Shelter now. But it was built by the Civilian Conservation Corps in 1937 and 38. And you can see those beautiful stone chimneys and fireplaces and the big logs that were used for the major part of the structure.
Hey, we're back to Halloween again.
Yeah. But they do these remote breakfast programs either at that CCC. Looks like out in the front lawn, they had a lot of special events, and they'd often spill into the front lawn there. It was a nice place to gather.
Okay, some square dancing.
Looks like some the Virginia Reel, some early line dances. And some of this may have been set up too. And you say they do look fairly well dressed, don't they? Yeah, right there in the brick walkway in front of the inn.
That's still there, isn't it?
It still is. The building you see directly in front of you is what's called the alcove area. And then coming out in front there now is with the swimming pool below it. You see the window configuration in the sun. More enclosed, and at one time it was screened, but it's now fully enclosed. Wintertime on the lakes have always been popular. Well, it looks like beautiful ice there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so rare you get that, what looks like a piece of glass for ice.
People still ice skate today? Or not as much? Or?
They do, ice skate, ice fish, of course snowmobiling on the lakes. But it's so rare that we get beautiful ice like this that's perfectly smooth. So often you get a little bit of snow or sleet, or you get some melting and refreezing, but this looks like perfect conditions. In here, we've only seen this kind of ice just a handful of times.
Really? Wow.
But people do bring their own ice skates. We don't. A successful ice fisher person.
I always see some of those little cottages over there.
Yeah, look how small they are. Of course, now the cottages are much larger and much more closer together. I think you see some ice boats too somewhere in this footage, and you still see a little bit of that today, but mostly now it's the snowmobiles.
That's neat to see the ice boats fly across that. 'Cause I live in Lake George, and sometimes I catch them out there.
Oh, still today, eh?
Yeah.
You can see how small the inn was at that time. And then in the 1950s and 60s, WoWo Radio out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, used to do a big winter festival here. So Pokagon has always been a real winter wonderland for our Indiana state parks and reservoirs.
Does that look familiar to you?
Boy, the stonework does. I couldn't tell if that was down at our beach house or not. It wasn't a very long clip. Some of these may have been done elsewhere on the lakes as well.
I can't tell what's going on here.
No, again, it looks like it's a Halloween or a costume party of some
Yeah.
sorts. They dress up for various holidays there at the Potawatomi. We celebrated our 75th anniversary. It's been now 5 years ago. This will be our 80th anniversary in 2005. And back in the year 2000, we had a number of people who used to work at the inn come back and share some of these
great.
stories.
husband was the park manager or inn manager?
Yes, they're both kind of co-innkeepers. That's how they referred to them at the time. There's a beautiful shot of a baby here, but beautiful shot of the dogwood flowers a moment ago. Pretty typical shrub here. Boy, if boy knew who this was.
And my son does it. Same thing. He puts everything in his mouth. So here's that. I think it's a couple minutes.
Okay.
Some of that movie footage.
Oh,
Algiers. Wow, they're Algiers. Wow.
Someone must have been. Oh, looks like they got some additional film.
Wow. Maybe when the first cartoons. It said 1923 on that. There's that Charlie Chaplin.
There we go. I forgot.
Stuck in the lamp.
You know, some of the earlier printings, you know, they seem to go real fast. I don't know if it was slower in the original version. Things that just seems to be really speeded up. Must be something in transferring the film.
It was Rin Tin Tin. Well, that looks like a good shot.
I don't think we're at Pokagon anymore.
That's actually me up there.
That's it, yeah. There you go. Yeah, some of the early shows by Trent Lewis. But they love to have a good time at the Potawatomi Inn.
Oh, there we go.
I knew there'd be some horseback riding. This is in front of the Potawatomi Inn. Not sure who this individual is, but
he's good.
Yeah. And I know that's not you, Trent. That's too long ago. But the saddle barn has always been a popular hit here at Pokagon. And there's still some of the people with us today that were involved in the saddle barn operations. But look how much different the windows are. They're more like screens there in that porch hallway. Of course, you see the slate roof, which we've been able to maintain over the years. It's kind of more of a ceramic or a tile, if you will. The beautiful glacial boulders on the pedestals there between the windows.
The 48 state flag, perhaps.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and study my American history to see how many states we had back then.
This guy might have been like a stunt Hollywood guy or something.
I don't know, he's good. I should bring back some of the early saddle barn operators and see if they recognize this individual.
Wow.
Now, how is that in the transferring of film, that things seem speeded up? Is that just the way the cameras were at that time, or something in the process that makes things seem quicker?
Yeah, I think it's a film. It's because it's film. And usually film looks slower. But in this case, it looks faster.
We don't do this in our saddle barn today, Trent, in case you're wondering. not one of the activities.
Now we're back to fall here.
And you know, it's fun.
Cutting
Here we are 60 years later or so, and we still do these kind of activities. The Potawatomi Inn Activities Department. It's a wonderful program, and they do pumpkin carving creations and contests at that time of year. And kind of fun that these traditions are maintained over the years.
Yeah, that's part of Halloween, is to do that. Is to dress up and carve pumpkins.
Every year for the last dozen years or so, we have our Halloween ghost stories and other tales of the season. We do that the last Saturday in October, a tradition down at the CCC shelter. Sometimes we come up with these ideas and we do them, then we come back and start doing research and found out they were doing them in the 30s and 40s. And
wow.
It's not all that new of an idea.
It looks like we're at the slide, maybe?
Yeah, this is up at the toboggan slide. There's that big stone pile there, and I don't know when that was taken down, but it was there during the CCC time. To our modern day toboggan slide that we have at Pokagon now. And at one point it was just one track, and I think it's just one track at this point. But you can see the tower is only, I say tower, we call it a tower today, it's 30 foot tall, but this one here is only about 10 or 15 feet tall here.
Yeah, they don't look like they're going very fast. But
no, not yet. But the history on this was originally the Civilian Conservation Corps, the boys who are here, 13, or well, they're a little older than 13, 16 at the early 20s, they had a toboggan slide just to kind of pass the time of day in the winter. Well, it became so popular that the park superintendent at that time, Russell Sprague, said, this is something our guests would enjoy too. So they allowed the general public to sled on this hill. You can see the Pohaton Inn in the distance.
Now, it doesn't look like it's a track after a while. It's just snow, isn't it?
Well, it was a track. They had it built up. It was a wooden
Okay.
track. They had some sides on it. Look at the length of that toboggan. People could bring their own toboggans back there, Trent. And you see there's a regular old runner sled. Nowadays, you have to use park toboggans, but back then you could bring your own sleds. And I've heard some great stories over the years of some of the things that people would slide down the hill on, from homemade toboggans to big scoop shovels. Look at the size of that thing.
Wow.
And that's something. It's like a 12-person toboggan. So when you filled out, boy, that thing had to really sail.
Some people are just not even going down the
Yeah, it
track.
looks like they're sledding right next to the track. This is, again, back to the main entrance of the lobby, and now it's our entrance to the Lano del Lounge. I believe this is Helen here.
Yeah, friend Helen is back.
Making that snow person.
Welcome.
There we go.
Are people, are they downhill skiing? or-
Well, it was a type of a downhill skill. It had to ski, it had the boots and the buckles, but they'd do cross-country skiing with them. And this is one of the properties that had some of the earliest ski lessons, if you will. There was someone from Europe, from Austria, I believe, and his name escapes me now, but he would give ski lessons here in the wintertime. And they would ski on the hillside right next to the Pohaton Inn. We've since have altered that hill. It's where the new addition is today. And then they would ski up on what is Hell's Point. But I think this is just right there behind the Pohaton Inn, going towards Lake Lanada. There's a nice little slope there at one point. But we have pictures of skiers out on the trails, much the same as we are today.
And, now these days, people don't downhill ski here at all, do they?
No, it's just cross-country skiing here. Downhill skiing is you need big slopes and ski lifts and so forth. There used to be a ski operation downhill in Steuben County. It's called Tamarack Mountain. It was over on 400 North, but it's no longer in existence today. You can see some of our earlier trail signs there.
Is that close to the Hoosier Hills?
Yes. Well, it's on
Tamarack.
400 North. It's
Okay.
a couple miles this side of Hoosier Hill. It's all part of it's called Tamarack Trail Subdivision now. Yeah, that's the Helps quarters there you see in the background. So this is that little hill there right behind the parking lot for the Pohaton Inn. And it looks like they just kind of walk back up the hill, doesn't
Yep.
it? So it wasn't that steep, but it offered them somewhat of a slope. I'm not sure what that tripod is. Must have been had to do with a campfire or something. But later, the inn manager would stay in that building you see right there in front of you. And then
Okay.
upstairs is where some of the housekeepers and the waiters and the kitchen help and so forth would stay.
Are they still here? Is that building still there?
No, that was taken down when we put in the new addition back in
Okay.
1995.
Well, they created a little course for themselves.
Yeah, a little solemn course. You see some buildings in the distance there too, on the upper right-hand corner. When I got here in 1980, that one building was still here. We used it as a little bird watching hut.
Okay.
And then you might see some other structures down there. They used to keep some small farm animals here in the summertime. Some goats and chickens and rabbits, things of that nature. They kind of referred to it as I think it was the miniature farm or the little farm, something of that nature.
Is that the same hill that we just saw, or is this a different hill?
Yes, I think this is all right there on the north side of the Pohaton Inn. Looks huge right here, but it wasn't that big of a hill actually. But coming off the parking lot was
Ooh, that's
quite
a
the
nice
hill.
shot. Oh, what the heck is this?
Yeah, it looks like an ice skater with a kite there, a homemade sail. Kind of innovative. You don't see anything quite like that today.
Trying to gather more speed?
Yeah, I think just taking advantage of the wind. Interesting lighting here, isn't it?
Yeah, this must be like sunset.
I don't know. Looks like it.
Maybe sunrise.
Yeah, it could be early morning. I think that was over towards the east. It's hard to say. It's hard to get your bearings when you don't recognize any of the present day landscapes. That may be towards sunset now, looking towards the west.
Oh,
Yep, I'm pretty sure that would be looking towards the west at sunset. There's a couple of those trees you see now on the beach. Those aren't there today. Again, looks like some great ice.
That's amazing. There's a lot of people out ice skating.
Yeah, you don't see that much ice skating today. I don't know if people are going more to rinks or just aren't involved in it as much. But I couldn't tell you the last time I saw this many skaters down in front of the Potawatomi Inn. We do try to keep a few areas shoveled off down there. We'll have our labor crew do that at some point, and then we put down a number of snow shovels, and people will often clean off the snow and ice on their own.
And the way they're dressed seems like it's fall a little bit. They don't really have heavy coats and.
No, it's.
Oh.
There's a trusting individual.
Yep. Oh. This might make it on Funny's videos.
Yeah, yeah. But I think we'd cringe now if we saw that kind of activity. Yes, looks like, are these mules here or horses, I guess? They used to do horse-drawn sleigh rides from the saddle barn. Neat activity. Of course, back then, Trent, we didn't plow the roads as we do today. The roads would stay kind of snow and ice covered, and here they are going right through the parking lot.
Where's that at?
That's the spring shelter.
Okay.
That's a spring shelter. They had some hitching posts there for the horses to stop along the way. So named because of the freshwater spring, which is right in the lower part of the picture there when they first started out.
Oh.
But this was built in 1938, this structure, by the Civilian Conservation Corps. Beautiful stonework and beautiful log work.
It's like they're trying to hit the camera guy with snowballs.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody's always hamming it up, aren't they?
Yeah. It's pretty much like today with people see cameras.
Right, right. Boy, beautiful sleds, aren't they? Looks like
Oh.
two of them there.
Wait for me.
Leaving someone behind. Looks like great fun, doesn't it? Again, you see how small the pines and spruces are.
There's that St. Bernard again.
Yep, there's Pokey or Sandy, one of the two. We have some old photographs of these on display at the Potawatomi Inn. There's one there in the main hallway. Looks like it's heading out the road. Again, look, there's no bare pavement on that road. It's pretty much snow and ice covered.
Is this a spring shelter again?
Yes, looks like they're skiing down there. There's quite a hill there. It's quite steep. And I don't know that I'd take skis down it today. I'd have to check out that tree more closely, too. I think that's still there. I think it's a big basswood tree. You can see the pines and spruces are much smaller. Looks like they're carrying up some pots there. They probably had breakfast there, or hot drinks anyway.
So they had a table there that people could go inside and.
Yeah, table inside and oftentimes a couple tables outside.
They probably brought their own thermoses and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I suspect so. I think they somehow carted it all over from the inn. There's a road right up above the hill here, so they may have driven the breakfast materials there.
Wow, this is a nice hill too.
What's fun, Trent, is we do a program today called Sunday Morning Ski In. Here comes the dog. And we do cross-country skiing. We stop at that spring shelter. We have a fire going, and same thing. We have hot drinks and refreshments there. And when we came up with the idea, we thought, wow, this is pretty creative. And again, here back in the 1930s, they were doing it before us.
That's a big dog. Jeez.
Yeah, I think I'd tie that dog to my skis and let him pull me around the park. Trying to figure out where this is. This may be up on Trail 3, back when it was wide open spaces before all the trees grew up. Looks like a pretty long sloping hill.
Whoop.
And she found out how steep it is.
Yes. Okay, now we're doing some cross-country skiing, looks like it.
Yeah, these skis, we still have a few of these in storage here at the Nature Center People want to come out and see these. A lot more primitive than what we have today. Again, that's the original lobby there at the Pohaton Inn on the west side, now our lounge.
Nice snowfall.
Yeah, it looks very nice. Looks like they'd store the skis and the bikes and things right there in that big front porch hallway. Now that cedar tree, I don't know that that one's still there, but the cedar trees on the corner, on the southwest corner, those are still there. You can see how short they are. Of course, now they tower up over the Pohaton Inn.
What's that trail say? Can you read it?
I couldn't read that.
Looks like cross-country skiing is a tough work, isn't it?
That looks like a lot of work there, right. This is a nice wooded trail here, certainly. One of the more forested areas of the park. Possibly back on Trail 6. It's kind of hard to say.
Are the trails any bigger now?
We have a couple additional trails that we didn't have back then. We've added on to the park as far as property over the years. And Trail 7, which we have today, didn't exist back in the 30s and 40s. That was a working farm at that point. And then we're just getting ready to put in another trail to our newest property, out towards I-69, a piece of property we're in the process of purchasing right now.
Oh, okay.
Boy. Don't know where it's at, Trent. Could be Trail 3. It's kind of hard to say. Things have grown up so much.
You see the building up in the right-hand corner. I'm not sure what that is either.
Is there a building there? This looks like one of our trailside bridges here at that time. I think that's Ben Swenson there, I believe. Just touched his hat.
Okay.
Kind of hard to tell here. I've only seen a couple of photographs of him. But yeah, that looked like a little bridge, possibly over Trail 3 by Lake Lonadau.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm guessing that this is up towards Hills Point, up on Trail 3. It's a little more topography up there, quite a good size hill. Looks like just a few of the small pines and spruces. They have long since grown up. Looks like a different place though, doesn't it?
Definitely. There's not any trees.
That looks like me on the skis there.
Me too.
I've been in that position before. Look how small these trees are now. You hike back there, there's a beautiful pine forest there, quite large. Yeah, this has to be
a nice hill.
This has to be Hell's Point. You can see the lakes in the distance.
Yeah.
Look how far you can see. Isn't that something? You know, when you hike Trail 3 now, it's just like a forest. You don't get nearly the overlooks. We try to maintain some of these vistas.
So in winter, you could probably still see the lake. And
in the wintertime, you can see the lake. Not quite as easy as back then, because even the trees, the deciduous trees, even though they've lost their leaves, some have grown up and they're thick enough and tall enough that you don't get quite the vista that you used to. But boy, that looks like a mountain by our standards. But
definitely.
Of course, the angle of the camera, and wow, great shot, huh? Looks like some creative skiing coming down the hill. That was quite a steep hill, and in fact, it was difficult to hike down even. So back in the early 1990s, we put a stair structure, if you will, some platforms to get people down this hill a little easier.
So the lake's here on the top.
Right. Yeah, those would be the lakes in the distance. You're probably
corner.
looking towards the west from what that view was. Probably seeing Snow Lake and Lake James there in the distance. And of course, the county road would have been just right behind these skiers.
Okay.
It's now 500 north and forms, kind of goes through the north end of our property. Wow, this is so different for those of us who hike this area today. You can see the farm in the distance. I suspect that's our assistant manager's house.
Okay.
And then what is now the Sprague addition would be up there in that northern part, probably Otter Lake at that point.
Yeah, you see some of the trees reflecting back on the
Right.
lake.
Of course, today you'd be looking out towards the toll road and towards I-69, towards the toll road plaza and the outlet malls. Here we are back to the spring shelter again. You know, we use these old photographs and old movies and things today, Trent, to make changes and in some cases bring things back to the way they used to be. And we're thinking of where those hitching posts used to be, putting a flat iron area there where people could park a couple cars and have a little easier access to the spring shelter. You see the big doors on the spring shelter, those aren't there any longer. They deteriorated quite some time ago, and they weren't easy to maintain. So we took those off, and there's no windows in that spring shelter either.
The Whitney family, familiar with them?
Don't know this history, no. But we're knocking around with them, though.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Happy spells. Ben and Helen Swenson. Is this the entrance?
This would be out on, it's called Old 127 now. Of course, this predates I-69, but just a narrow gravel road coming into the property.
Is that a mailbox?
Looks like it. Looks like it. This is all so different now. This is State Road 727.
So this would be close to the sign when you come in the park?
Yes, this is out where our present day entrance is at this point. Yeah, we have some still pictures of this, but this is out at what's now our main entrance. Again, it's, there's our gatehouse. This was built, I believe, in 35. Of course, right about where that middle car is, we now have a smaller building. And had a big flagpole up on the hillside there. I'd forgotten that was there.
And there's not a flagpole there?
No, not any longer. Now the flagpole's down right near the gatehouse.
Okay. So the road is almost... Is it exactly the same as?
It's pretty much so. Yeah, it looks a lot different now, though, doesn't it? You can see the kind of the intersection in distance there. You go to the left, you go to the inn. If you go to the right, you go to the saddle barn and to the nature center. Of course, the parking lot has all been reconfigured. But what you're seeing now, that's all still there. And off to the left now, that's our new conference facility. They had parking garages down between the Potawatomi Inn proper and the Helps quarters. Of course, that's all part of our conference center now.
Okay, that's where the volleyball sand courts are now, right?
Yes, used to be tennis courts at that time. You're seeing tennis courts there. And here about 10 years ago, we made those into sand volleyball courts. That would be Ben Swenson there.
Oh, and they had a little playground out there?
They did. And, believe it or not, this was still here when I got here in 1980.
Really?
And we've since have taken these out in lieu of the more modern playground equipment, the timber form and the big timbers and swings.
They look like they're going to hurt each other there.
Yeah. That's probably why they're not there anymore.
I imagine.
That's Helen Swenson there, and she's on top of the slide now.
Looks like they had a lot of fun.
Yes, I believe so. Is this what they mean, taking a breathing spell with Helen and Ben
wrestling
Swenson? Yeah.
match?
That's a little different. That would be Ben Swenson in the white
Oh, here's that
shirt
footage I
and
was
pants
telling you about, the train. Looks like they're going out. So I think we're back in the park now.
I think so. You see some of the early park signs there. Small pines and spruces. Back in front of the Potawatomi Inn, some trick skiing. Early flyover. It's kind of interesting in modern times. A number of people have airplanes on the lakes. You see them take off in the summertime out over the water. Looks like everybody's getting the hang of it here. Yeah, we jumped ahead to spring or summer, one of the two. Field glasses, I think he's putting away there, were they? Binoculars?
Looks like it. And a feather cap.
Yeah.
And where are we at now? Are we by the lobby now?
This would be right there in the front of the inn again.
Okay.
This is the Lounge on the left and the sun porch hallway there on the right. Looks like they had a door on this end. That's not there any longer. The door is now in the middle. That's the windows for the Lounge there. And can't quite make out the trees. Look like there may be a redbud right there. We still have redbud and dogwood. I think they're newer trees now, though.
It'd be interesting to see what they're actually saying right now.
Right.
Doing a little dance here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening here.
Is this some sort of play or?
I don't know. The inn staff used to put on plays at Christmas time, I know, and looks like they have something going on here in the summer or fall.
A two-woman show here.
Yeah. Now this tree is no longer there. And they got the nice chairs out there. In present day times, we have these Adirondack chairs that are lined up out in front of the inn, and people often spend time out there resting and looking out over the lake. A little wildlife photography here. When we had our reunion back in 2000, our 75th anniversary, we had this video playing throughout the day. And,
Oh, you did?
yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of nice people to stop by and watch and see some familiar scenes. I was hoping some people would see themselves in here from that many years
really?
ago, but I didn't have anybody come forward and point themselves out. But we had people watching the videos who were here during that time, and that was a real treat for them to go back in time that many years.
Oh, now we're in fall.
Yeah, it appears to be. Fall is beautiful here, certainly. Maples and ash trees. Oaks in certain years get real nice red, maroon.
There's a good amount of woodland even during that time.
There was. Between the Nature Center and the Potawatomi Inn was fairly wooded.
And what do we have here? Are you familiar with this?
No, I'm not.
It's a bigger lake then.
Yes, that might be across the lake. There's several points of land that go out into Lake James. This may be on the other side looking towards the park or looking across one of the basins, and I'm not recognizing it. I don't think that's the inn in the distance, is it?
No, I'm not sure.
I'd have to have one of our older residents of the lake that would remember seeing it more at that time when there weren't the homes and things that we have today.
Well, these are nice trees here.
Beautiful.
It didn't look like we're at the back of the park. It looked like there's a house. I'm not sure about this one.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Carving a pumpkin.
Yeah, looks like got a green pumpkin there. Didn't want to let this one get orange, did we?
That's an ugly pumpkin. Oh,
It looks like a little contest here. I got the tables out there in the front walkway in front of the inn. Looks like they're doing their pumpkin carving contest right out there. Makes sense. Looks like a number of newspapers around to keep the mess tidy off the tables. Gotta love some of those old hickory chairs with the wicker seats on them and backs. We still have a few of those around the property today.
Now all of these are guests that are participating, you would think?
These would probably be in guests, yes. Yeah, that was kind of a trademark of the Swenson's time here, is they provided these activities for the inn guests. And we'd see letters written back to them that comment about the good time that they had here. And a lot of these people come back year after year at the same point. And, we still see that today. I'll have people come in and say, Fred, this is our 9th year here. This is our 20th weekend. And people oftentimes come at the same weekend every year, too. It just becomes a real family tradition for them. There we go. Not sure where that was.
It's a soldier.
Yes, Helen Swenson had up in what is now the Lana Del Lounge, there's a small room there that we now call the boardroom or the director's room, and it's a meeting room that groups can use. And at that point, she referred to it as the prayer room. And people would go in there and they'd have letters posted on the wall from service people, and people would go in there and maintain good thoughts for the people in the military who are fighting over in World War II.
Okay, where are we at?
The combination shelter at that time is now
Okay.
called the CCC shelter. You see the beautiful shingle roof there. When we replaced that roof a few years ago, Trent, we came back and put shakes back on there. It had been replaced with asphalt back in the 50s or 60s. And that's kind of a trend that we're trying to do, is get the buildings back to what they originally were when they were first built in the 30s and 40s.
So it looks like we got a little hayride.
Get ready for a hayride. Of course, hayride's still much a part of our tradition at Pokagon State Park. We don't have them horse-pulled any longer. Now we have a farm tractor that pulls them along. But the activity is still special nonetheless. Now we have a tractor that pulls two wagons, kind of a tandem hayride. It's now on weekends, Friday and Saturday nights in the property. And back then they may have done it at other times. And we'll do it at other times too if we have groups that request it.
Is it just for the fall? During the fall season?
No,
or-
it starts spring, goes right through fall,
Oh,
the
okay.
hayrides. There are weekends in the spring, from early April through the end of October. Yeah, these one-horse carts and things, that's a real sign of the past there. We haven't done that in a long, long time. Of course, it's interesting, some big cities will have horse-drawn carts and buggies.
Yes. I see them in Fort Wayne occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just got married. They're going through downtown.
Mm-hmm. This may be down just on the front lawn of the inn. Looks like the lake in the background there, doesn't it? This could be down towards what are now the sand volleyball courts. Looks like they had a grill down there at one time.
Some hot coffee, perhaps.
Yeah, this person there that just looked at the camera, I think his name was Uncle Jimmy. He was related to the Swensons, and he was a real fixture here. He played fiddle on weekends, kind of led square dances. And when you look in some of the old postcards from that time,
Oh, there he goes.
he'll be
He's
featured.
playing.
There he is right there, Uncle Jimmy on the fiddle. A lot of the women who were housekeepers and kitchen staff have nice memories of Uncle Jimmy. Of course, some of our friends now are in their 70s and 80s, but they have very fond memories of the 1930s and 40s here with the Swensons and Uncle Jimmy and their colleagues at the Pohaton Inn.
Fishing excursion. It's just so amazing to see the lake and not many boats out there, not many houses.
Mm-hmm. Looks like a wetland here. This may be taken from the Pohaton Inn area, looking out over the fen. Actually, it looks like farm field in the distance, doesn't it? And sheep in the foreground here. I was told that down towards the nature center here, they used to graze sheep back when the park was first formed. Of course, you don't see that now in state park or reservoir properties. There's no grazing of any kind, but that would be interesting to have to see sheep roaming around the park. Helen also led nature hikes. She is, in addition to being an artist and a photographer, she is very much a naturalist and would often lead the hikes herself. And then in the late 30s and early 40s, the Naturalist Service started, kind of their precursor of what we have today in our interpretive services. But they'd hire summer guides. Most often they'd be school teachers or students, college students studying to teach biology. They'd use these people to lead nature hikes in the summertime. The original saddle barn, you just see the foundation of it now. It's just a little bit towards the east from the present-day saddle barn that was built by the CCC in 1930s. But again, the trails, they basically went all throughout the park. There were both hiking and horse trails. And some of the early maps from the park was just a little over 1,000 acres. We have a map on file here from 1939 that shows those early horse trails and
So people can
where they went.
use the horses?
Yes, I think there are still guided trips, but they had different lengths of guided trips where it's all just a 40-minute trip today. But back then they'd be gone for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, and they'd go much greater distances over the park. Wish you had a time capsule, don't you? Be able to go back. You see images like this, and you just want more. You just want to know what it was like back then. And this is a scene that you and I probably walk over all the time here. That if we frequent visitors to Pokagon, but it just looks so much different now, some 60, 70 years later.
And yet the inn looks relatively the same.
That's
the pool house and the deck
Right.
overlooking the lake.
Right, and that's the whole charm of the experience, that you can get a room in what we now call the historic section and still get the same flavor that people did in the 1930s and 40s. Still see the same kinds of birds, same trees, the colors they turn in the fall, the same spring wildflowers. You see the poster in the background, winter sports?
Yes.
We recreated that in 2000, and that's available at the Inn gift shop.
Great.
And that was a poster that Helen herself created. And we're able to duplicate it, reprint it for a commemorative poster for our 75th anniversary. And those are still available. They're beautiful posters. Oh, morning calisthenics here, eh?
Simon Says?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's down at the CCC shelter again. Looks like they have a grill going on the outside. Yeah, they sure knew how to have fun back then, eh, Trent?
Yes. I'm not sure what that... Looks like they're chopping wood, or I'm not sure what they're doing.
Some kind of group exercise.
Now we're back in fall. Yep. Is there more wetlands there?
I'm just going to say the same thing. We have what's called a wetland fen complex. It's a marshy area where water seeps, kind of alkaline soils. Beautiful, looks like a beautiful swamp white oak there.
Oh, there's those.
Yeah, there's a seaplane. I guess they've been here for quite some time, haven't they? But I mentioned a swamp white oak. What we're doing here, and now we're into the 2000s, is trying to reestablish the original plant communities that were here.
Playing water polo or
Yeah, water keep away or
water
little game
dodgeball.
here. Yeah, boys against girls, I can't tell.
It's like the girls are winning.
You can see how shallow it is there. And today, people go way out there, way out from the shore, and they're still only up to their waist or their hips in some cases. It's quite shallow. Beautiful swimming lake, sand bottom, great for kids, great for families.
Yeah, you can see the people way out there.
Yep. You've heard or read or have seen the infamous Lake James sandbar.
Yes.
Every weekend, the boats are more out there, and there could be 100 or more boats, and people just jump in and out of the water.
I used this at the beginning of last week's show,
Oh,
some of this.
a few bathing caps in the crowd. You don't see those quite so much anymore.
Oh, they're picking on this one girl, pushing her in. Yeah, and of course the shorts.
Mm-hmm. There's some of that early hickory furniture again that we still try to keep and maintain on the grounds today. Another military uniform here, is it, Trent?
Looks like it.
Yeah. On both the man and the woman, looks like.
Is that ivy on the side there?
Could have been, Virginia creeper or some other kind of ivy going up the side of the tree or the side of the Potawatomi Inn.
I really like that scene. They all got their arms around each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we see scenes like that today when modern-day military men and women return home, and you had to think that the same feelings and emotions were certainly felt back then.
So where's that?
I'm not sure where that's at. It's not here, though, I don't believe. I didn't recognize that. Unless that was the early saddle barn back there. That could be. That could have been the early saddle barn.
With
That-
the pigs and animals?
Yeah, I've never seen that building, nor have seen a side picture of it.
Oh, gatehouse?
Yeah, this is out at the gatehouse. There you go. Free nature guide service. I wish that sign was up there a little longer.
Yeah.
These fish ponds, I think I mentioned them, the Civilian Conservation Corps built them. And the craft shop, that was in a lower level of the Helps quarters. They'd have tinsmithing and woodworking and leather punching, and again, kind of a precursor of our modern day craft room that the activities department operates, where they do paintings and ceramics.
They're still growing, was that corn or?
Now this is over at the Swenson's home, which is presently the Winghaven Nature Preserve.
Okay.
It's about 2 miles from the park. It's owned by the Acres Land Trust. When Mrs. Swenson passed away, Mr. Swenson died in 1950s. Mrs. Swenson passed away in 1983, and she left this 150 acres to the Acres Land Trust. It's a land trust organization here in northeast Indiana. And you can see that log house in the distance and a log barn that was brought in. The log house was a number of buildings that were disassembled and reassembled on that site.